Good morning, everyone. My name is Daryl Bennett, Comeback Swinging. Hold on. Let's make sure we get this before we even get to the video. I have something else I want to show you all. It's always impossible until it's done. They're always going to tell you it's no way you're going to be able to do it till you do it. And I'm going to show you this video that proves why you need to stop listening to other people about what's possible for your life, you know, what you can be, what you can do. I love technology. I'm going to tell you why. Because I get to integrate now videos into what we're doing. It's one thing for me to come on here and say, you can be great, you can beat the odds, you can beat the limits. But if I don't show you some concrete examples, it's easy for you to get off here and say, Daryl, you just said that to make yourself sound important or make me feel better, but you don't really believe it. I want to show you concretely. Now, I told you, I'm a history major. I'm a studier of history. I love history. And the reason I love history is because you can always look to the past for an example, a piece, a reference point to show you how you can overcome in the future. I'm going to show you right now history being made. Now, it was in 1954, so it's not as if this is recent news. But I want you to see this because this gives context to exactly what I'm telling you here. It's always impossible till it's done. They're always going to tell you. Remember, I got on here yesterday and I talked about changing the narrative. I'm part of changing the narrative, whether it's the collective narrative of a people, of a community, or it's of a family even, generational narrative that has been passed down, or it's an individual narrative in your own life. Whatever that narrative is, the narrative, in order for it to shift, you have to begin to ask yourself, what am I believing about myself? What am I believing? You know, it's so many times we listen to people who don't know who they are and try to extrapolate our worth based on what they say. But if they don't know who they are, how could they possibly affirm and confirm our worth? And so part of what we're doing here is sharing about how to see yourself differently. I'm about to show you a video, again, because of copyright laws. It's not like I can set this video up and have all 4 minutes like I would want to show you. We're going to watch about 2 minutes under the Fair Use Act, copyright law 1976. Thank you for that. We're using this for educational purposes. I want you to see Roger Bannister making history. He is running the 4-minute mile. All right, let me just add a little bit of context. Let me pull this up and let me add a little bit of context. Can I do this, y'all? Let's see where we're at. Okay, before we show this, what you are about to see is history being made when people said it couldn't be done. The 4-minute mile was a barrier that for so long people said it was no way anybody could run a mile faster than 4 miles. Now, if you're just tuning into me, you're probably listening to me like, Daryl, this is boring. We already know about that. But I'm going somewhere with this because it's easy to, I see where I see it. Thank you. I see how easy it is for people to miss, and when I say miss their worth because they're listening to what other people said. Now let's go back to the 4-minute mile. There are studies which show that doctors, catch this, doctors in the early 1900s actually suggested that not only was it impossible for a person to run faster than a 4-minute mile, that if a person even approached that speed, their heart might explode. These were some of the things that they said. Their lungs might rupture. It was generally a scientifically proven, I won't say fact because it wasn't true, opinion that the human body could not go faster than 4 minutes. The person we're about to watch, Roger Bannister, his goal was to, I think it was the 1948 Olympics he was going to retire in. He didn't, because he had a goal to reach the 4-minute mile. Let's watch this. I want to watch this together. We're not watching the whole 4 minutes, but I want you to watch what's impossible until it's done. And then I'm going to make my point. Y'all know I'm going somewhere with this. Let's pull this up.
3/4 of a mile, the effort was still...
Let's pull this back a little bit. This might not seem like much to you. This might not seem like much to you, but we're watching history being made. They look like they're running slow. He's running the 4-minute mile right now, people. They said it couldn't be done. I'm waiting for his heart to explode. That's what they said. The doctor said the heart would explode, all this other stuff if you ran faster. This is history in the making. This is old news now. This is 1954. But at the time, this was incredible. Watch.
I had to run the last lap in 59 seconds.
Last lap, 59 seconds, y'all.
The next bend, and then I pounced past him at the beginning of the back stretch.
That's him.
300 yards from the finish. I had a moment of mixed joy and anguish when my mind took over. It raced well ahead of my body and drew me compellingly forward. I felt that the moment of a lifetime had come.
Sorry, y'all. Sorry. You see him? He's running to beat the 4-minute mile, y'all. The 4-minute mile. They said it couldn't be done. They said it couldn't be done. I'm going somewhere with this. I'm tired of people telling people what they can't do.
To save himself from the chasm that threatens to engulf him. My effort was over, and I collapsed almost unconscious with an arm on either side of me. It was only
now I'm about to go somewhere. Now I'm about to talk my talk.
I knew I had done it.
Now I'm about to talk my talk because I got a lot to say about this. I don't care what people tell you cannot be done. It's possible. Now, I just showed you Roger Bannister, 1954. They said it was no way you could run a 4-minute mile. I want to show you the practical effect of what this means when you break barriers. See, when you're a barrier breaker, you not only open the door for you yourself, you're changing generations. And I'm going to explain this to you. They told Roger Bannister, not just Roger Bannister, he had this goal to beat the 4-minute mile. That's what I was just showing you. They were like, it's no way it could happen. It wasn't just they were telling him because personally it was Roger. It was the accepted notion. It was the accepted theory by not just runners, by scientists, by doctors, by experts in the field that it's no way it can happen, because the thinking was people have been on earth for thousands of years, right? Nobody broke it before. What makes you think they're going to break it now? And people tried. Nobody could beat that 4 minutes. What you just watched, he did it in 3 minutes, 59.4 seconds. He beat the record by 0.6. He did something that people said could not be done. They said it was impossible. This is where I'm going with it. In 6 weeks, somebody broke his record. In 6 weeks. This was a record that stood, they opined that people have been trying to break this record for 300-400 years. Because you have to remember the Olympics, I believe the Olympics started in Greece thousands of years ago, but there was a break. But they've been recording these things for a while. So they have records of the fastest records on time. What Roger Bannister broke, what we just watched in 1954, was a record that stood for all intents and purposes for all of human history. And in 6 weeks, it was broken. 2 days later, that record was broken. Within a year, 28 people broke the record. What happened? Did people get faster? No. Roger Bannister, when he ran across that finish line, he did not just break a physical barrier. That's why I'm excited about this. He broke a mental barrier. When he ran across there, it wasn't just for him. There were other people that watched and said, oh, it is possible. My heart won't explode. And this is what I wonder. This is what I wonder, because you know I'm coming somewhere with this. I want you to hear me. I'm talking to you. What have people told you about your life that you've accepted? Maybe they were people in positions of authority, doctors and lawyers and experts who postulated about your future. They told you what couldn't happen based on the past. Everybody was telling Roger Bannister he couldn't beat a 4-minute mile, not because they had a crystal ball about what would happen in the future. They were looking in the past as a frame point for what could happen in the future. And that's a very dangerous thing. Because if you are going somewhere where no one has been, if you have the logic that I can only follow a trail, then you never get there. Some of you are change makers. You're about to change the narrative in your generations, in your families, in your neighborhoods, in your community. You're about to shift the entire narrative. That's why I'm talking directly to you. Stop listening to the idle voices of people who have no clue of what they're talking about. They have no clue. They mean well. Roger Bannister later tells the story, as you can imagine. He tells the story. People that doubted him were not just people who, let's say, did not like him, so to speak. That wasn't even the case. The doubt came from what they call scientific fact. There were people that were close to him that doubted him. Not because they thought less of him, but because they accepted what they were told about an outside reality. What have you accepted about an outside reality that might not even be true? The allegiance between physical barriers and mental barriers. Yes, thank you for that. Can you put that again? The allegiance between physical barriers and mental barriers. My God, that is powerful. When you break a barrier, other people are watching it. That's actually, I did not recognize it at the time, but I did not realize that some of the conflict I was having in my life didn't even have anything to do with me. It had to do with the influence that I would potentially have. See, there is an attack on your identity, because if your identity can be confused and conflated and dismissed and maligned, then you never walk into the fullness of who you are. Sometimes the effort of the enemy is just to confuse your identity, just to completely confuse it. You don't know which way is up, which way is down. It's to get us caught into this bubble where we only see ourselves in the context of what's going on right around us, that we miss that there are people that are watching. See, if Roger Bannister would have said, and he later recounts this journey to breaking the 4-minute mile, he keenly understood, maybe not at the time, but later, that him breaking that mile, what 4-minute mile, that barrier, was a big reason why 28 people did it within the next year. I think by now they said on record over 1,000 some people have broken this record on record, right? Since 1954, 1,500 some people that we know of. High schoolers are breaking that record. But what if he didn't do it? Well, somebody else would have eventually. But I want to ask you that. What if you don't start the business? It's not just about you. Who else is looking? What other barriers are going to be broken? What if you don't go forward with the dream? I understand you might say, well, it's my dream, Daryl. I just quit because I don't care. I got a lot going on. You don't understand. But what about your children that's coming after you? What about your great-grandchildren? Because a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children's children. So what about them? What are you breaking now? So in 2100, they don't have to fight the same fight. What are you fighting that your ancestors fought in 1900 that you want to break now and create a different narrative so 100 years now down the line, we're not at the same place? Every time I battled depression, I didn't recognize it at first. See, if I knew this, I would have avoided some negative things that I did in my life. I always took the depression personally. Somebody needs to hear me. I took the depression. I thought it was me. I thought I was sad because of me. I thought I was going through because of me. I thought all this because of me. I didn't understand that it had less to do with me and more to do with who I could touch. I need you to understand this. You're being attacked because of who you can touch. That we're watching that 4-minute mile 50 some years later. Roger Bannister been dead and gone, but what he did lives on. What he broke is still changing people's lives. Yeah, you'll be dead and gone. You'll move on from, what do they say? From dust you came, dust you'll return. But what are you doing that's going to outlive you? All my young boys, I was talking about, Daryl, we got to help you get your video likes up. I get that. But I tell them, I'm not doing this for the likes. I'm doing it for legacy. Whitney Houston said her mom told her, I'm not, because it was certain songs that Sissy Houston wouldn't let young Whitney get on. And people thought she's trying to stifle this woman's career, this young woman's career. And Sissy finally told the producers in the room, she said, I'm teaching Whitney to make legacy music, not club music. Yeah, there's a difference. You do it for clout, I'm doing it for calling. There has to be a shift. I get it. We all, I get the glitz. But at what point do we live with calling and purpose? And I understand now that when I'm really depressed, that's because it's something coming on the other end that's going to use that I'm going to be used as a vessel to help influence other people. See, sometimes the enemy wants to get you to mess up in life, not because of you, just so he can mess up your reputation. So later, whatever you have to say, they could discount it just based off of what you did. Sometimes it's just about that. Just let's get a personal transgression out here. So later, even if it's 40 years down the line, I can't really receive wisdom from you because, oh, you did that. I didn't recognize that when I was going through what I was going through. That the enemy was playing chess, I was playing checkers. And I'm trying to sound the alarm to warn you and to let you know that when you get depressed, when you get those days, you don't even want to get up, where you get these, sometimes you might even get these thoughts, why am I alive? I should just end it all. I'm telling you, when you really feel at the strongest, it's because in the supernatural realm, there's something happening. You can't see it. I told you, if you did not watch my broadcast yesterday, you need to watch it. I explained to you that no general puts together a planned strategy for attack against a threat that's not a threat. So when you feel those feelings, you have to understand there's something happening there. Let me tell you something that I also learned through dark times. I didn't realize this before. If I did, I wouldn't have made some of the mistakes I made. The poison's in the antidote. The antidote's in the poison. The places where you are challenged the most in your life, I promise you, that's the place that you could be used to transform most people's lives. That's always how it is. The platform, I want you to understand, the platform, the places, the things that tempt you, that you struggle with, that place, the place maybe you're embarrassed about, the place where you're like, this is like my weakest point. Everything else I'm on point with. You know how you have a report card, you might have straight A's, but it's that one class. It's the one class that seems to always beset you, no matter what. Maybe it's chemistry, maybe it's math. And I'm trying to get you to understand, it's the same thing that's happening there. All these things. And maybe one thing holding you back. Let me say this. The time is coming that we have to begin this. People always talk about being woke. I really don't know what that means. I really don't know what that means. I know what people say, but I don't understand how you can be woke when you don't know who your maker is. Because you ain't make yourself. I don't understand how you can be woke when your answer to everything is look within yourself. I used to say things like that. That's not true. Look, if it was within you, you would have figured it out by now. That's what I had to tell myself. Daryl, if you had the answers, you would have figured it out 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Let's be honest. If it was, it's all within you. The answer's there. Just look within. You don't need anybody else. If I didn't need anybody else and I had it within, I would have gotten where I needed to go 20 years ago. So would you have. But it wasn't until I recognized, no. I don't find my purpose. I discover it. I don't create purpose. It's already been created for me. I don't mark out my path. It's been destined and foreplanned for me. And then I begin to understand, like a chess player, that every place that I was really struggling in was the place where I could be used at the most. I can't talk too much about it here now, but even the platforms that I was struggling with the most, I realized that was where God was trying to use me the most. The internet, to change people's lives all over the world, and yet that would be the place that I would struggle the most. I'm giving you a glimpse. I'll talk about this and come back swinging. I'm giving you a glimpse into my personal life because I don't want to make it seem like that overcoming means that you still don't deal with it. Overcoming doesn't mean that at all. Overcoming means I might still go through it every day, but I come out on the other end on top. Yeah, that's a whole nother thing because a lot of times we don't like to talk about process. But let me say this and get off. It's time to do it for legacy. It's time to do it for calling. Yeah. It's time to recognize. That was really the point of me getting on here. It's always impossible. Looks impossible till it's done. I'm going to go ahead and say it is impossible till it's done. That's what they're going to tell you. How many people in how many communities have been told what they couldn't do, what they couldn't be, personally? Maybe because of what they did in their own lives, maybe because of who their families were, because of where they grew up, because of their race, because of their gender. Now, I can't stop what other people said about you. I know people always tell me. I was talking to a guy the other day. He said, don't nobody go say nothing disrespectful to me. I'm like, it's amazing you can control what people say to you. Because you really can't. People are going to say what they're going to say. The question is not even how will you respond. It's what will you believe. I had a grandmother that said, it's not what they call you, Daryl, it's what you answer to. I had an interview recently. He said, Daryl, how will people define you? I don't know. You have to ask people. I'm not concerned about how people define me. I'm concerned about how I define me and how my maker defines me. And so the question is, how do we go from the place of everything going on around me is all what I see and this is my only world, to recognize and understand that every feeling you have is coming from somewhere deeper. There's a plan that's on your life. That's what I'm getting to. It's always impossible till it's done. It's not just about you and you being successful and pulling yourself up. There's a calling over your life. There's some assignment that's on your life that only you can do. I want you to understand that only you can do. There was calling placed in you from the beginning of time. Before there was an earth, there was calling placed on you. Before there was a when or where, there was calling placed on you. You don't have to go to a Bible to understand that. We can go right to science. What is one of the laws of what do they call the law? Matter can be neither created nor destroyed. You were here. What did they say? What was in the stars? They found that the same composition is in the stars as in the makeup of the human body. That's where we get people say you're a star. It's really true. You were here before. Maybe not in the same manifestation on this plane, but you are bigger than what you physically appear to be. So my question is, knowing that, now, when do we recognize the signs and the signals? That's what it took me going through some dark periods. It took me losing everything. It took me being in confinement to recognize, when I feel that feeling, right? Just like what they say, for every action is an opposite and equal reaction. I don't think it's necessarily an equal reaction, but I do think there's an opposite reaction. I'm telling you something personal in my life now. Every time I feel sadness, every time I feel that depression, and I still go through it, there are times where I'm keenly now aware something must be happening. There's some opportunity that's coming. I recognize that now. This is what I guess I'm trying to say. What's the rhythm of your life? Don't be one of those that goes through life and you don't even know the rhythm. You don't recognize the seasons. You don't recognize the shifts. There's something that's happening. And once we begin to recognize and ascertain that, it shifts everything. I'm going to tell you a quick story and then I have to go. It's always impossible until it's done. My whole life, people have been telling me it was impossible. I mean, like, really, I've actually gotten to the place that I have come to gauge my goals against the measurement of how quickly I'm told it cannot be done. Because I've gotten used to, I don't think it's necessarily cynicism or pessimism. I just think people are just quick to they think they know what's possible for them, and it's not true, because we don't many times even know our own strength. And they're so quick to think what's possible for you because they think they know you based on what they see, based on what they heard, based on what they read. So I've told you this many times. I don't want to go back to growing up in Baltimore. People said I wouldn't go to college. Yeah. We've all heard that before. That's not odd. But throughout life, what I'm telling you is each step that I've taken, there's always been people to say, it's no way that that's going to happen. Even I tell you, I write the book, Come Back Swinging, through the dark periods of my life when I lost everything. And I told people within a year, I'm going to have this, this, and this. I'm going to be teaching. I'm going to hear people say, there's no way, they're not going to let you, da-da-da. And then, what Nelson Mandela said, first they ridicule you, then they laugh at you, then they criticize you, then they something else, then they, what did it say? Then you win. So people are content. Just somebody was telling me the other day, he said, I don't know anybody else that's had the backstory you've had and made some of the choices you've made that has bounced back and has some of the success. And I said, that's because of two things. First of all, I understand that my life is not my own. Yeah. You're not fighting me. You're not fighting. I am keenly aware that there have been times in my life, the biggest times in my life where I've been so overwhelmed, my prayer is, I know I'm overwhelmed. I need help. I had to look from without myself. If it was coming from only within, I wouldn't have gotten in the thing. And what did Einstein say? One cannot get out of the problem with the same thinking that got him in. So one of the reasons is I believe that I soar like an eagle, is that I recognize that my strength is not in me. It's not in me. It's not in my degrees, my eloquence, who I know, who I can call. It's in the fact that I am connected. I'm connected. I'm covered. People always talk about being driven. Can I tell you something? I'm drawn. It's a difference. See, when you know what the difference between the push and the pull. Anybody that's ever pulled a door or pulled anything, it takes so much more effort to pull than to push. See, when you're driving something, even though it might feel like a push, you're really pulling. Because what a driving force is something that's within you that's pushing you towards something else. And the world talks about drive. But what the world misses is that there is a supernatural thing called draw. And people who are drawn will always reach higher levels than people who are driven. Because while the person who is driven is pushed from the inside, the person who's drawn is both pushed from the inside and pulled from the outside. Yeah, I'm pulled, I'm covered. There's even in my darkest days, I understand that there's a mission for me because it's not about me. I get that now. I understand that I can't be defeated in certain instances because there is a plan on my life that has less to do about my life and more about the person that put it on my life. So I move throughout the world with a different level of understanding, a different level of confidence. You can't stop me. You cannot, you can't stop my flow because I understand that my battles are not fought by me. My battles are fought by something big. So that's the first thing. The second thing is about bouncing back is I'm very cognizant about what I get in my head about who I listen to, about who I am. Because I don't want to get so supernatural, because this is where the woke people get me. They talk all of this stuff about being woke. But then when you start to pull away, and this isn't everybody, the paradigms and the things that they think about themselves and other people, I'm thinking, you're not woke at all. You're as asleep as everybody else, and you need to reevaluate, because those paradigms, it's not the conscious mind that's doing it, it's your subconscious mind. That's the drawing. That's what you're dreaming off of. That's where all of the programming is coming off of your subconscious mind. That's what has to shift. You know where Descartes said, I think, therefore I am, and there's a scripture that says, as a man thinketh, so is he. It's not what a man thinks. It's as a man thinks. There's a difference. You don't become what you think about. You become how you think. There's a difference. There's a huge difference. There's a huge difference in understanding that. So there has to be a paradigm shift. It can't just be that I watch a few good videos in the morning and say affirmations and do meditation. If my paradigm is that I'm not rooted, see, my paradigm still has to be I'm rooted in something bigger. You can beat me. You can definitely beat me, but you can't beat the hand that I'm covered by. And that's just the hand. You can't even, that's just the hand. You don't even want to see the whole body. So there's there's a different level of confidence that where I say, and I can walk into certain situations. I know I'm overwhelmed. I can say that. Oh yeah, you can defeat me. Somebody said the other day, somebody said, somebody could shoot. They sure could, but guess what? But I'm gonna tell you something. The weapon can be formed, but whether it'll prosper or not has nothing to do with you. It probably doesn't even have anything to do with me. And so I want to encourage you this morning. I want to encourage you. It's always impossible till it's done. They all look at me. Read. You need to read Come. You get a chance. You really need to read Come Back Swinging. All right. And I'm gonna tell you why. I know this book has been through it. It's the because people was saying, oh, it's no way. I think sometimes there's something in the mind of God that wants to prove people wrong. I really do. Because think about it. You're made in the image and likeness of God. Don't you get angry when people tell you what you can't do? Doesn't it push you more? Any of you that have children, somebody walk up and say, oh, let's say you're on the way to a contest. Forget it's not even a contest. You're in the market. Somebody walk up and say, oh, yeah, your child never going to do this. You might want to fight somebody. Who are you to say something about my child? I want you to have that same level of ownership, tenacity, and indignation when people speak against you. And know that that's what's being translated from heaven. Who are they to say what you can't do? You know what somebody once told me, and this changed my perspective. He said, you think you really messed up? I said, yes. And look at this, and this. And he said, yeah, And so that means you're going to stop pushing toward doing bigger things? And I was like, well, no, because I think, he said, so do you think that there's calling over your life? I was like, well, of course I believe there's calling. If I didn't believe that, I wouldn't say it. So, okay, if there's calling over your life, and that calling was there even before you made whatever mistakes, if you were to stop because of you, even though you've been pushed by God himself, that means you're basically saying, I'm smarter than God. I'm better. I know more than he knows. And that kind of got me to change my mindset a bit about maybe it's the unlikely people that are being used. Because that's where the drawing is. Where everybody else is talking about being driven, that's where the drawing is. It's a power in picking weakness to show power against. The stars will only look bright against a dark backdrop. The strength of the Almighty is only made powerful against the bleakness and frailty of human weakness. And so there is a glory in weakness. Yeah, there's a glory in saying, no, I'm not even going to be able to do it. But I can tell you who can. I can tell you who is able to do exceedingly and abundantly. So it's always impossible until it's done. And some of the same people throughout my life that have told me so often, it's no way it could happen. You want to know the funniest thing? Those are the first people that are saying, yeah, I knew he would do it. He was always different. I was read into somebody recently. No, not recently. Not, everything runs together. This has now been about 6-7 months. During the pandemic, I do remember that. And the person said, yeah, that's Daryl. We've always known Daryl was going places. Daryl, this, and that. I'm thinking in the back of my mind, you were talking about Daryl back then. You were calling Daryl all kinds of names. But I get it. People like to rewrite history. But the point is this. There were a lot of people in that crowd that we watched together with Roger Bannister. I guarantee you that clapped when he crossed that 4-minute mile. How many of them were in the crowds that said there's no way he could do it? Many of them probably told him to stop training, give it up. It's a lost cause. And so that's why you have to be very careful when you listen to people, because some of the same people that'll shout Hosanna, the same ones that were laying down the reeds, the same ones that were saying, blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord. They were the next week saying, crucify him and give us Barabbas, the murderer, instead. So I want to encourage you. If they told you it's impossible, I spent the whole hour to come to this point. They said it to me too. That's why I wrote Come Back Swinging. That's why I wrote Daring to Be Different at 18 years old. If they told you it wasn't going to happen, they said it for me too. If they said it because, it's because of race, it's because of where you're from, it's because of, your family, it's because you messed up, it's because of it. They said it to me too. And guess what? It's a lie. Quick joke, and then I'm going to get off. This is one of my favorite jokes. So, wait a minute. I had 2 jokes in my mind and I forgot it that quick. So the guy said, so it was actually 2 jokes. So guy's driving in the car or whatever. Actually, I'm not even gonna tell a joke. I can't tell a joke because I really, as soon as I said I was gonna tell a joke, I got it mixed up. The point was that, hold on, give me a second. Because I gotta get this joke to Let's see, it's funny. I'm good speaking off the cuff about everything else. You could tell clearly jokes are not my thing. It was a joke where I'm gonna botch the joke up, so I'm gonna do it anyway. So the the guy gets pulled over because he is speeding. That's what it was. And okay, I got the joke. I got it. So he's speeding, and the police, I got it. Yeah, so the police officer comes to the car, and says, sir, you're going 80 miles per hour, whatever. He's like, no, I didn't realize that. No, sir, I'm going the speed limit. Police officer like, no, you're not. You're going like 80 miles per hour. It's only 60 miles, whatever. So the guy, says no, and the man says, well, I need you, to show me license and registration. He said, well, I don't have license and registration. And he said, okay, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Well, as he opens the car door, he says, I need you to open the trunk, because I think I smell something. He's like, well, I can't open the trunk because, to tell you the truth, it's something in there that I really don't want to tell you. And now the officer is suspicious. He's got a man that doesn't have obviously speeding, doesn't have a license and registration, and, presumably has a body in the trunk. So he calls for backup. He calls for backup. All the backup comes. Man's on the side, handcuffed. Police chief walks up. Now they're trying to figure out what's going on. They, get the warrant, pry open the car, all that. Trunk of the car, look in the trunk. Nothing's in the trunk. Get open the glove department. That's what I missed to say. Open up the glove department, looked in the glove department. They saw his license and registration. So they go back to the man and they said, this is a big misunderstanding. We were told you had something illegal in your trunk, that you didn't have your license and registration. They come to the man and they say, we see you had something in your trunk and you had license and registration. And the man said, yep. And I bet you the cop lied and said that I was speeding too. So the point is, he kind of gets off because, he sets up a straw man. He does the one wrong thing, but these other two things, he doesn't do, and he's able to prove that. But the point is that I'm trying to make is, whose report are you going to believe? People are going to lie because they don't know. They don't know. Sometimes they lie about your future because they don't know your future. But will you take the reins and believe for yourself? Because I'm going to tell you something. It's always impossible until it's done. And then when it's done, people look back and say, oh, well, of course that was going to happen. And it breaks barriers, and all types of people walk in the door, all because you had the courage to step up and break through. My name is Daryl Bennett. I want to thank you for watching. Please share this. And I want you to know, no matter what has happened in your life, no matter what people have said, no matter how bad it looks, I am a living, breathing witness. You can. Trust me, you can. Come back. Swing it. All right, guys.